Guys, welcome back to the Boston Chris Show. And if you're new, I would love to earn your subscription or follow with this brand new episode of the Boston Chris Show featuring iconic songwriter, Hall of Fame songwriter, Mr. Kent Blazy is here on the show this week. Let me tell you more about Kent. Kent Blazy is an American country songwriter born in Lexington, Kentucky. That's actually on his website and not true. He was actually born in Woodstock, New York, and raised in Lexington, Kentucky, and now calling Nashville home. As a member of the 2020 Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame Gala, Blazy's catalog includes enduring hits such as Garth Brooks' If Tomorrow Never Comes and Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up, and Chris Young's Gettin You Home, the Black Dress Song. Garth Brooks began writing with Kent in 1987 and took the stage at the induction to present him and perform their breakout hit If Tomorrow Never Comes. Beyond multiple singles with Garth, Blazy has penned songs recorded by Gary Morris, Diamond Rio, Patty Loveless, Chris Young, and more, amassing 7 number one hits to his credit. Now, raised in Lexington, Kentucky, Kent began playing rhythm guitar and singing in local bands at an early age, drawing inspiration from the Byrds, Rodney Crowell, and Joe Ely. He later toured with Canadian icon Ian Tyson before former Exile member Mark Gray encouraged him to move to Nashville. After an initial publishing deal dissolved, Blazy scored a breakthrough when Gary Morris took his song Headed for a Heartache into the country top 5. In the late 80s, he met a then unknown Garth Brooks, with whom he co-wrote the If Tomorrow Never Comes song, Garth's first number one hit. Their collaboration continued throughout the 90s with singles including Ain't Going Down, It's Midnight Cinderella, She's Gonna Make It, Somewhere Other Than the Night, and of course the George Jones duet BEERUN, Beer Run. Kent also co-wrote Diamond Rio's That's What I Get for Loving You and Patty Loveless's Can't Get Enough. Kent joined fellow songwriters Pat Alger, Tony Arata, and Kim Williams to record a songwriter's tribute to Garth, an album featuring their own renditions of songs they penned for Garth, released in 2001 via VFR Records. Beyond his work with Brooks, Blazy co-wrote Crystal Shawanda's You Can Let Go, Chris Young's 2009 Grammy-nominated number one Getting You Home, and American Idol Season 8 finalist Danny Gokey's debut single, My Best Days Are Ahead of Me. What a career this guy has led. What a life he has led. And we're so excited to tell the stories of the songs and of the songwriter here. And without further ado, guys, let's get into it with the one and the only Kent Blazy on the Boston Chris Show.
It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. Until we all lose connection.
Hey y'all, this is India Ramey. Thanks for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.
Guys, it is Kent Blazy week here on the Boston Chris podcast. And, man, what an honor it is to have you on the show this week, Kent. I appreciate you spending some of your time with us, man.
Well, I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, man, we focus on the songwriter here, man. I'm a huge songwriting nerd, and almost 600 songwriters now that we've chatted with, and we'd love to tell the stories behind the songs and the songwriters who wrote them. And the current single for you is probably the best place to start, I think, for you, and that's
Sure.
American Dreamers. Tell us about this song, Kent.
Well, it's about pretty much my life. I had another one on the album before that was about the guy who I started the band with, and we started when we were in college, and we had a really good band. It was like the Byrds, a 4-part harmony. Everybody played good, sang good, and we were doing really well. And we had a big audition, and the other lead singer, guitar player in the band, left for LA with his girlfriend and didn't tell anybody. So we show up. There was no cell phones back then, you know. I know that's hard to believe, but so we show up at the gig and he's not there.
It's such a musician thing to do, man.
Yeah, that was a musician thing to do. So that kind of inspired the song that's on the other album called "This Song's for You." So this is kind of a continuation of, the first time you pick up a band and you're in a garage band, and a lot of people decide, well, I'm not going to go to college and do something different, or I'm going to do whatever. But a lot of us just stuck in there and kept playing and kept slogging along and honky tonks and whatever. And like the song says, my bass player gave up and he became a really big real estate agent. And the other guy who moved to California, he, we kind of didn't ever hear from him again. And then the drummer disappeared, who was a good friend of mine, and I've never heard from him again either. So it's just interesting. So
Sounds like an episode of Yellowstone, Ken. I'm not going to lie.
well, it's kind of like that. And, the comments from so many people that have been in bands like this, it's
Yeah.
like, man, you nailed it. And then I'm lucky enough to live in Nashville, where a lot of the people who were part of that song with the same experience, they moved to Nashville and they're making a living playing guitar in a road band or a studio musician. And like the other guy in my band, who's the other guitar player, Steve Allen, he's still in it now, and he's in a pop band called 2020, and he plays with me. And we're still out there doing it, and we still want to play, and we still want to write songs, and it's just we made it.
Yeah.
They ain't chased us
I
off
chatted
yet.
with a band last night on our live show called The Great Unknown. And the reason why they're called that, Kent, you could appreciate this based on this song, is because they'll do a gig and they're just hoping that enough musicians show up that they can play the gig. They never know who it's
Yeah.
going to be.
That's I've been in bands like that where it was called Band of the Day, because you never knew who was going to show up and play in the band.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a 3-piece, sometimes there's a 7-piece, but here's the gig. Are you going to come?
Yeah,
if not,
just
we're
make
gonna
it work.
play.
It could be a solo show for all you know, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I've done that before too. So
Right.
the funny story is, the one time I was playing, and it was with this same band, and for some reason everybody was gone on that week but me and the drummer. And I'm like, this was before the Black Keys, so
Yeah.
I never thought, well, maybe we ought to do this. So I'd just gotten to know Garth Brooks, and he was a starving singer musician. And so I was with him one day and I said, hey man, you want to make $50 and go play bass in my band? And he said, I can't play bass. And I said, well, just stand up there with the bass and act like you know what you're doing,
That's right.
and I'll turn it down and I'll play bass parts on my guitar most of the time. And we did that. So we still joke about that he was the bass player for
That's
one
funny.
night.
You
I
had
think there
Garth
was-
Brooks lip syncing on bass guitar. Let's go.
Exactly. So I felt sorry for him. So about halfway through, I let him play the guitar and sing, and I played bass, and
Yeah.
that worked pretty good. So
Yeah, that worked out okay. Man, speaking of Garth, man, I got to ask about Garth's very first #1 hit, which was a co-write between you two. It was, I believe, also your first #1 hit. It was If Tomorrow Never Comes. One of the biggest songs in the history of country music, in my opinion. Tell us how you guys ended up writing this song.
So, in Nashville, you got to have all the irons in the fire that you can. And so I was playing in bands at night. I was playing on people's demos and stuff, and trying to make my days free where I could write. And so I started a demo studio where if you wrote a song just on acoustic guitar or piano, you could come into my studio and I would have musicians in there that could make your song sound more like a record. And so if you sing like me, you need people called demo singers.
Yep.
And my demo singers who couldn't get a deal were like Faith Hill, Martina McBride, Joe Diffie, Randy Travis, Trisha Yearwood. None of these people could get deals, so they were singing for me. And so Garth had heard about my studio and thought he could make more money singing demos. At the time, he was cleaning churches and selling boots. And so he came over and he said, I want to sing some demos for you. And I said, well, you got anything I can hear? And he said, well, I've got a cassette. And he played me 6 songs. And I loved what he heard. And I said, yeah, I'll be glad to start using you. And when he was leaving that day, he turned around and said, well, I'll write a little bit too. And so I was thinking, okay, big career ahead of him, selling boots and cleaning churches, and so I said, well, sure, let's get together and write. And so in Nashville, like if you and I were going to get together and write a song, hopefully you would bring in some ideas and I would bring in some ideas. And so I was sitting on my couch trying to come up with some ideas for a guy that was cleaning churches and selling boots. We didn't have Google at that time. And he came in, and I was sitting on my couch, and he was wearing this big long duster and big cowboy boots and cowboy hat, and he looked like he was 8 feet tall. And he stood above me and he said, I got this idea. I've run by 25 writers and nobody likes it. And I kind of looked up at him from the couch and said, gee, thanks.
Number
he got
26, right?
Yeah, he kind of got pissed off about it, and he said, well, don't you want to hear what I got? And I said, yeah, play me what you got. So he played me what he had, and I said, well, I love this idea. It's what my mother used to tell me, tell the people you love how you feel about them while they're still alive. And he said, well, what's wrong with it? And I said, well, you're killing somebody off in the first line of the song. There's really nowhere you can go. And so he said, what would you do? And I told him what we do, and we did it. And at the end of the day, we had this song that was If Tomorrow Never Comes. And he went up into my studio and he did a guitar vocal of it. And that can't be too bad. We pitched it around town for a year, and we pitched him around town, and nobody was interested in him or the song. And so one night he got to play one song at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville because another artist hadn't shown up for his own showcase that he was doing. And they called Garth up and said, we need somebody to come here. There's nobody up on stage. We got record producers and A&R people. And so Garth went and he sang this song. And at the end of the night, one of the people in the audience was from Capitol Records to hear the other guy. And he came up to Garth and said, look, I know I passed on you for the third time this week, so maybe we missed something. Why don't you come back in? And he went back in and he got a record deal, and it was his second single and his first #1 and my first #1. So,
Right. Man, it's just one of the coolest stories that I've heard from other people around town about how you and Garth just happened upon this song and how it really kind of made one of the most iconic careers in the history of music in Garth Brooks. I feel like you have a lot of responsibility in that. I know you probably won't admit to that, but I think as a fan, that I think you do. And just an incredible song. Do you happen to remember who the guy was that he replaced up there on the Bluebird?
golly, let me think. Ralph Murphy was his name.
Wow.
And Ralph worked for ASCAP, but he was also a good singer-songwriter, and he was from Ireland. And evidently the story that I heard was somebody from Ireland called him and offered him a whole lot of money to come play a gig in Ireland. So he just left. And once again, we didn't have cell phones. He didn't tell anybody. He just left. And so he had this showcase at the Bluebird, and he didn't show up.
That was a bit of an oopsie, I would think, right? Capitol Records
think
is in the
so.
audience, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's thank Ralph Murphy for Garth Brooks as well. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
And, the other guy we have to thank is Bob Doyle, who is his manager still, who actually was the one who called me and asked me if I would meet with Garth. And Bob had also worked at ASCAP, and Bob had quit his ASCAP job to manage Garth Brooks, who was cleaning churches and selling boots. And I thought, if this guy's quitting ASCAP that pays money to manage this guy, there must be something there, you know? And and so it was just a combination of things. And, I tell some people the other singer that I used all the time before Garth was Billy Dean. And Billy Dean and I played in that band that I was telling you
Phenomenal
about.
voice.
Yeah, and he was women loved him. He looked great. He
Had the
sang
look.
great. He wrote great songs. And so I thought he would be the big star. And I think everybody was kind of amazed that Garth just took off like that. And, Billy, I think he got where after 2 or 3 years of doing that, he's like, this really isn't fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to know where I'm going to be 3 years from now on this day. And so he kind of walked away from it all.
Well, we're kind of excited. A little bit of a surprise for our listeners and viewers out there. We're going to include, courtesy of Backstage Nashville, a live version of Kent performing his hit song, If Tomorrow Never Comes. And we're going to include that here on the episode right now. Y'all check it out.
Sometimes late at night, I lie awake and watch her sleeping. She lost a peaceful dream, so I turn out the light and lay there in the dark. And the thought crosses my mind, if I never wake up in the morning, would she ever doubt the way I feel about her in my heart? And if tomorrow never comes, would she know how much I loved her? And did I try in every way to show her every day that she's my only one? And if my time on earth were through, and she must face this world without me, is the love I gave her in the past gonna be enough to last if tomorrow never comes? 'Cause I've lost loved ones in my life who never knew how much I love them. Now I live with the regret that my true feelings for them never were revealed. So I made a promise to myself to say each day how much she means to me, and avoid that circumstance where there's no second chance to tell her how I feel. And if tomorrow never comes, will she know how much I loved her? Did I try in every way to show her every day that she's my only one? And if my time on earth were through, and she must face this world without me, is the love I gave her in the past gonna be enough to last if tomorrow never comes? So tell that someone that you love just what you're thinking of if tomorrow never comes.
All right, so we're back with Kent Blazy, and like I said, we tell the stories behind the songs, but also the songwriters. And your story kind of begins in Woodstock, New York, of all places, and then kind of transitions to Lexington, Kentucky, where you're raised. Is that right?
That's totally accurate. And the cool thing about growing up in Woodstock, it was before it was known as Woodstock Pop Festival.
Right.
But even back then, it was a very creative place where actors lived there and writers lived there, artists lived there, and as part of the Hudson Valley artist community. And so when I was a little kid, I could go to somebody's house and see a huge painting they were working on, or somebody would say, "Hey, I just wrote a book. You want me to autograph it to you?" Or you'd meet some famous actor walking down the street, and he just seemed like everyday people. And I thought, man, that's the way to make a living. My dad was working at IBM on the assembly line. And even as a little kid, I thought, I don't know, it seems like that'd be more fun painting or something like that, doing something creative. So that just kind of stuck in my mind. And so IBM at the time meant I've been moved. So that's how we ended up in Lexington, Kentucky. And if you told somebody you wanted to be a singer-songwriter, they were going to lock you up. in Lexington, Kentucky. So I kind of just kept it to myself, and I got a little guitar for Christmas when I was 16, I think, and started banging around on it. And
man, I got to tell you, Kent, you might have the most gangster story when it comes to getting into music. Okay, it involves a transistor radio and Marlboros. Okay, trading cigarettes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who lived 3 streets down from me, he was a really good guitar player. And so when I got a guitar, I didn't even know there was something called standard tuning.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out things on the records, and I was going, how come this is in F sharp and C sharp and E flat? And so this guy rode the bus with me, and he always was carrying his guitar. And I said, hey, will you show me how to play something? And he said, well, you can come by my house and I'll show you something for half an hour, but you got to buy me a pack of cigarettes. So this is Kentucky, you know, I mean, 15, 16 years old, you go in and buy a pack of cigarettes, and he'd show me some lick, and I'd go home and practice it for about a month and then come back and give him another pack of cigarettes. And
it's just an incredible story, man. Oh, man. But it started, and again, we're talking about like no cell phones and things like that. It started with a transistor radio for you. That's where your love of music was really kind of born, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't, because at that time, on what was ever on the transistor radio was anything from Patsy Cline to the Beatles to Perry Como to Roger Miller to Louis Armstrong. You know, it was like you heard all kind of music. There wasn't categories like there is now. Well, this is country, or this is pop, or this is rock and roll. It was, they played everything. And so it gave you a wide diversity of music that you liked that really had no boundaries. And so that really set the tone for me back then of everything's music. If it moves you, hey, that's what counts.
And is the local, like you're talking about no boundaries, I find that very interesting because looking back and kind of understanding how Appalachian music is, and the music of the hills of Kentucky and Western Virginia, Eastern Tennessee, that area, it would seem to be very boundary filled, but you're able to get outside of that with your radio. Are you being influenced locally as well by that Appalachia sound?
You know, there really wasn't much in Lexington, because back then the Appalachian sound was what you would call rednecks, hillbillies, and Lexington was trying to be, you know, it's a college town, a more sophisticated town. So you didn't hear bluegrass much at all till this guy, J.D. Crowe, started a bluegrass band. And I was teaching guitar where he was teaching banjo. And so we kind of got to be friends. And he was playing at the Holiday Inn. And so I went out to the Holiday Inn, and his band ended up being, before he left, Ricky Skaggs, Tony Rice,
oh my God,
Jerry Douglas.
Wow.
I mean, it got where Ricky moved into Lexington from the hills. Keith Whitley moved in from the hills, and things started changing. But that group was such an iconic group of people that, like, say, Stephen Stills was coming to town, or Emmylou Harris, or the Burrito Brothers. They all wanted to go out and hear J.D. Crowe and the New South at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
So part of the time I would drive them out there, because they'd be in playing a gig somewhere close by, and they didn't have a vehicle, so I would go get them and drive them around to hear J.D. Crowe and the New South. So that's when bluegrass really got to be a cooler thing in Lexington, Kentucky. And I think Ricky had a whole lot to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you talked about something that I feel like was really prevalent early on in music for you, and that is kind of the blue-collar work ethic of your folks and the people around you from your geography in the Kentucky area. You talked about kind of keeping singer-songwriterhood secret. So once you kind of break out of that, you're not secret anymore. You want to make this a career. How does your family and folks around you, your friends and stuff, kind of take that news? Do they support you, or?
Yeah, you know, I was very lucky in that capacity because, you know, it was that time in the late 60s when so much good music was being made, and it was opening up a lot of people's minds. My parents, being in Woodstock, knew all these artists and all these people that made a living being creative. And my dad always said, go do what you love, don't go do what I do, you know. And so he and my mother were very uh, supportive of what I was doing, compared to like some of my other guys that were in my band. I started a band when I was 18 in college, and I was the band leader, which was a really interesting kind of thing to kind of get you into the music business and know exactly what you had to do. But like, we'd have to sneak the drummer's drums out of his bedroom window to go play gigs.
Wow.
Sometimes, because his parents didn't want him to play. And some other people like that were really great musicians that their parents wouldn't let them go out and do that. So I was lucky that they were always so supportive of what I was doing. And then the guys that I played in the bands with, I would show them some songs that I had written, and they were very supportive about sticking some of them in the sets that we were playing and not really telling anybody they were original material. And so that kind of gave me, you know, the fact that they liked my songs, a little courage to just keep doing it. And some other bands in Lexington heard my songs through that, and they wanted to start doing them. And so it's all that feedback, little baby steps that kind of keep you going in the right direction.
I love that. I love how you're kind of saying that your folks' support turned into personal courage to continue the dream, to continue on those steps. Do you think that if that support wasn't there for you, that things would have turned out the same way for you?
I would say probably not. You know, if you don't have somebody in your corner helping you along, it's really hard to keep wanting to do it, especially back in those days, because it was hard to make a living playing around, you know, and either high school things or college things, or, you know, even clubs and bars and whatever. And it wasn't really, it was kind of frowned upon. The thing I kept hearing all the time, like what I was during the day, I was either practicing guitar or trying to write songs, and I would have people come up to me at night at a gig and go, "Well, what's your day job?" And I'm like, my day job is writing songs and practicing guitar. And they're like, "Oh, you don't really work." And I'm like,
Yep.
"Okay," you know. And I've heard that my whole life. Well, you don't really work. You know, it's like that Knopfler song. That's the way you do it.
Yep.
Money for nothing and chicks for free. And it's like, yeah, right. So
there came a point in time in your life, Ken, early on, where you had two passions, and that was sports and music. I imagine that was a pretty big fork in the road for you. What made you choose the music over the sports?
Well, and the hardest part of all, and this is where my dad was so supportive, he was the co-manager of the team that I played on. And he was a really good athlete. And I think he would really have liked me to keep pursuing playing baseball. But I just fell in love with guitar, and like these people you hear talking about, you know, I about slept with it, and it was with me all the time. And I just knew that was the direction I wanted to go into, rather than doing the sports thing. And he never said a word about me leaving the team when he was still the coach or anything like that. And that's just kind of the dad that he was.
I mean, that sounds like it would be just so paramount, just having your dad in your corner like that, man. Because I know how frowned upon certain careers were back then. If you didn't get your hands dirty, you know, a lot of your parents, just especially your dads, just did not respect the choice. So I always wonder, as a fan of music, how many incredible musicians and artists and songwriters that were turned away because of those kinds of lack of support. So I'm glad you had that. Do you remember your first paying gig, Kent?
I can tell you my first paying gig was probably a junior high sock hop, as they call them.
Yeah.
With a little 4-piece band that was terrible. That was just friends of mine. The next gig that I played was with this guy who was my age, but he was an incredible guitar player. He was a great painter. Now he'd probably be ADD or something, I don't know. But The first gig he booked us was in a stripper bar. So
Really?
yeah, so I'm 18 years old or 17 years old, and here's all these women getting up on stage with us with barely any clothes on, and I thought, boy, I've hit the big time now.
That's awesome. Still a young kid, man, getting paid for that. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I love that so much. Yeah, I always love the first of an artist and songwriter. What was the inspiration? Well, actually, before you really delved into the writing side of things, you were working with a Canadian legend by the name of Ian Tyson. How did that opportunity come about for you?
Well, I was playing in a band that was a pretty well-known regional band in that area, and a friend of mine who lived in Louisville, Kentucky, was friends with Ian, and Ian had just lost his band, and so this friend of ours said, "Well, Ian, you need to get these guys in Kentucky. They're already ready to go. They're already a band," and so Ian, sight unseen, actually hired us to come up to Toronto and start doing some gigs with him, and I was about ready to leave that gig anyway because I didn't get along with the guy who was my best friend. When we got out on the road, I found out what an alcoholic he was, and he was really hard to work with. And so when we got back, the gigs had gone good or whatever, but I got a call from Ian, and he said, "Hey, I want you to come be my band leader, but I don't want the rest of the band." And so I was a huge fan of Ian Tyson's to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I took the gig and basically moved to Toronto and kind of put together a band. And it was actually an incredible band. We ended up playing on at least one of his records, I think. And then he moved to Calgary, Alberta, and we all moved out there. And the cool thing about Ian was he was very helpful with my songwriting. He was always willing to hear what I'd written and critique stuff, and he would let me and the band open up for him playing my original material. So that was pretty cool that he believed in me that much, and he kept telling me I needed to move to Nashville. And so I played with him about 2 years, 2.5 years, and then after I left him, that's what I did. I moved to Nashville.
And was it, first of all, I want folks out there to know who may not know who Ian Tyson was. First of all, look him
Yes,
up.
please.
Yes, if you are a songwriting fan like I am, this is a guy you need to know about. One of the monikers he had over the course of his career was the Canadian Bob Dylan. That's how good he was. That's what people...
Well, yeah, I agree. It was him and Gordon Lightfoot, I
Sure.
think, that you would say that to. And, if you can write Four Strong Winds and Someday Soon, and he was just such an inspiration to be up on stage with him every night and, to allow us to come in and play with him. And my funniest story was we were in the studio in Toronto doing something, and Gordon Lightfoot came by to visit him. And so here I am with Ian and Gordon together, and it's like, oh, my God. And so when Gordon left, I said to Ian, "Well, thanks. I'm glad I got to meet him." He said, "Yeah, he hates me. He's never forgiven me for giving him his first hit song."
That's amazing. Good stuff. So, I mean, it was a pretty big moment in your life when this legend is helping you with your writing, and ultimately that is what ends up with you in Nashville, right?
Well, it's that, and the other part of the story is in Lexington, Kentucky, where I'm from, there became a band called Exile.
Yeah.
And they were a rock band, and they had a big hit, "I Want to Kiss You All Over." And so I had played on the road with the guy who had ended up being the bass player for Exile. And I was in one weekend when I was off from Ian, and I went over to see him. Sonny Lemaire was his name, and we're still friends. And he had another guy there that just joined the band. His name was Mark Gray, and Mark was probably one of the most soulful singers, a great songwriter and performer that I'd ever heard. And so Sonny said to me, "Play some songs for Mark." And so I played some songs for Mark, and Mark said, "Oh my God, you need to move to Nashville." And so I'm like, okay, Ian's telling me I need to move to Nashville. This guy who's blowing me away, who I don't know from Adam's, telling me I need to move to Nashville. So that pretty much cemented it for me. And what's so funny, Mark said, when you get down there, I'll do anything I can to help you. I'll go around and introduce you to people. Well, I didn't realize that he was a cocaine addict. So when I got down there, I didn't really see him too much, but just the fact that he believed in me and was such an amazing talent, it gave me the courage to move to Nashville.
Yeah, it got you to town, right? So, I mean, that's the huge first step. Your first publishing deal ends up dissolving after a short amount of time. You get to town, and that kind of happens to you. How are you picking yourself up at that point? Because, I mean, I imagine when you're moving to town, this is a huge step, right? It's life-changing. Right. And then this happens. You got to have some kind of imposter syndrome or internal voices that are kind of telling you, man, you really messed up. So how do you get over that at that point?
Well, it's interesting because, this gig that I got with the guy, he was very helpful to me. And so after the thing dissolved, I kept writing with him. And he's the guy that I wrote Headed for Heartache with that became my first top 5 record.
Sure.
And his name's Jim Dowell. And so it worked out okay. I didn't have any money, but I was going back to Kentucky and Indiana and playing gigs on the weekend and stuff like that to be able to stay in Nashville and keep writing. And so Jim and I just kept writing, and I met some other guys. And what's so funny, Jim sent me, and this is a song on the new album called I'm Thanking You Now. He sent me to somebody who was the head of CSAC at the time, because he said, you're going to start getting songs recorded, and CSAC will pay you right away when you get things recorded. Go see her and play her some songs. So I played her some songs, and she looked at me and said, you're terrible. You need to go home. And so it's in the song Thanking You Now. So I was kind of crushed, of course. And I went back and told him. He said, well, they're not supposed to tell you that. They're supposed to encourage you. And I said, well, she just told me I needed to move back home.
Well, she encouraged you, Ken. She just encouraged you to go home.
Well, that's it. And, you thank those people because they kind of pissed you off and kept you going.
Sure.
Jim Williams called it vindictive energy.
Yep.
And so what's so funny is about 2 or 3 weeks later, I got like 6 songs cut in 2 or 3 weeks. And so he ran into her, and she said, hey, did that kid move back home? And he said, no, he's had like 6 songs cut in the last 2 weeks. And she was kind of startled about it, but I didn't really ever hear from her again. So that was fine with me. But she gave me the pissed offness to keep at it and keep going.
How big of an impact do you think that first top 5 hit with Headed for a Heartache, which was recorded by Gary Morris, how did that kind of open doors for you? Because I imagine as a new songwriter, people are probably like, who's this new guy, right?
Right. Well, there was that. And I consequently met some other kind of new guys. One guy that we really had a good ride with was a guy, Dan Mitchell, who he wrote for a producer called Ray Baker, and he produced Mo Bandy and Joe Stampley and some people like that. So we got on a little spree there and wrote songs together, and so that kind of spread it too. But at the time, it was one of those things where it seems like I was so busy trying to make a living playing in bands and doing the studio work, I really wasn't out there meeting the people I should have been meeting that much. But you're trying to do what you got to do to keep doing what you do.
Absolutely, man. And that's what Nashville's all about, right? Is that art of networking. Always
really is.
Hitting the pavement, meeting people. Yeah, if you're afraid to meet people, Nashville is not for you. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you never know which person you meet is going to be the one that makes or breaks you. You just never know. Man, we had Jan Buckingham on the show last year, who you may know. She wrote Queen of Denial for Pam Tillis and a bunch of other songs. And, man, she talked about the art of networking and just beating the bushes and showing up at artists' houses and just doing things that probably are legal nowadays.
Well, you could do that back then. And the other thing, Jan wrote a lot with Mark Gray. I think they had some pretty big hits
Yeah,
together.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And and she was a hustler. And the thing of it is, back then, now they've pretty much torn Music Row down.
Mm-hmm.
But Music Row's three little streets of little houses that were publishers, writers, record labels, the whole bit. But you could be walking down the street or walking down the alley, and you might run into George Strait or Reba
Yep.
McEntire or Keith Whitley or anybody, and pitch them a song. And the thing was, always keep a cassette in your pocket just in case. And these days, everybody's got their own little clique, and there's not much interaction between the people like there was before. There's no Music Row left where that can really take place. So the networking's a totally different thing now than it was back then. But there was a time where before I moved to Nashville, you could come down to Nashville and just pretty much knock on any door and you could play them a song. And those days are long, long gone.
Yeah, now everything's internet based anyway. Like you can reach out to people so easily just through Zoom or anywhere, email, instant message, whatever. One thing you talked about earlier that I think I find really interesting, and I think you're probably the perfect guy to ask about this, is kind of the art of the demo. And how important that was for you to kind of get your name out there even more. You talked about setting up the infrastructure to help people get in there and get their voices on demos and stuff. Talk about the importance of demos and why kind of having those are important to the infrastructure of Nashville.
Well, this was kind of at the start of where people were asking for those. Before that, the way country music was being written in those days, you could pretty much pitch a guitar vocal a lot of times. Like a lot of Don Williams stuff was just Bob McDill with a guitar and a vocal on things. But it kind of started getting where we want to hear what the song can really be like. And so Headed for Heartache was kind of one of those where we did a demo of it. And so I just saw that was starting to be what more and more people were doing. And I was lucky enough that I could play at that time a lot of different instruments. And I'd been working with a 4-track and working with a 12-track. And so I just kept expanding what I was doing and meeting more and more people that could play with me on stuff, but also the demo singers. And like, Trisha Yearwood being my demo singer, I kept telling Garth about her, and he wasn't interested in meeting her because he had another girl who was singing his demos. But I finally wrote a song where they had to come in and sing on the same mic at the same time, and that was it. Once he heard her sing, he's like, "What do you got going on?" And she got, "I'm doing nothing. I'm working at Country Music Hall of Fame and working at a record label as a secretary." And he said, "Well, I'll help you get a record deal. I'll help you get out on the road. Everything I can do to get you going." And he did, and the rest is history. I never dreamed they'd get married, but
Yeah.
that's just the kind of thing that was going on at the time. You just never knew who was singing demos for you. A lot of people went on to have record deals that sang for me, and a lot of them had maybe one record deal and then they were gone. And it was a really strange time. And some of the best people that were singers never really did get a record deal or get a chance to have their music really get out there. So
yeah, I want to mention somebody right off the bat that just came to mind. One of my favorite female vocalists in the history of music was a very, very busy demo singer, and that's Stephanie Bentley.
Oh yeah,
who never really made it big. She did have, I believe, she had a record deal at one point, but
she did have a record deal.
She never really was successful as a recording artist, but man, was she an incredible singer.
Yeah, it's like the Don Henley line in one of the Eagles songs. How come fortune smiles on some and let the rest go free?
Yeah.
Some of the people that I thought would be the biggest stars, nothing ever happened to. And some of the people that I thought, there were a couple singers, I won't mention names, that I took their names off the demos they were singing and hired another demo singer. And the people that I took off, they became huge stars.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and she did have a record deal. It was with Epic Records back in '96.
Right.
Just looked it up. But she did I've been blessed enough to hear the demo of In Pictures, which was written by Joe Doyle.
Right.
And Stephanie is the singer on that song, and my God, you want to hear a song that just wow. I mean, obviously Alabama made it a huge hit, but like, I really implore you guys to try to find the Stephanie Bentley version of that song if you can on the demo. It's incredible. And to
Well,
think
and then
that, go ahead.
compare it to the Alabama one,
Yeah,
and but that was the thing. You could have a singer. Sometimes it worked in your favor because it blew the artist away, and sometimes I've had something where the demo singer was so good, the people trying to sing the song couldn't match it, so they didn't cut the
they
song
didn't.
because
Yeah,
of
they would
that.
leave it alone. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they couldn't do nothing with it, and you could always tell when an artist was very sure of themselves if they took that challenge on. Even though the
exactly.
demo and Randy Owen was that dude. Let me tell you what, man. Like he could bring it with he was the perfect marriage to a lot of songs. Randy Owen and
He really
Alabama.
was.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. But yeah, you guys look for that out there. Let's talk about the record, man. It's Where I Am Now. It's 11 songs, which I love, man. I feel like anytime I see an 11-song record, that usually means that you had 9 picked out and there were 2 left over that you couldn't make up your mind over. Is that what happened, Kent?
Well, it's kind of funny. I've got a guy who plays in John Party's band. He's the band leader, great bass player. He plays on everything I do. And when I get a batch of songs together, I will get him over to the house and play him, and he'll go, "Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd go work on that one some more." And so that's what happened last time. So after he left, I ended up writing like 3 or 4 more songs, and one of them was American Dreamer. And I thought, well, these are better than the ones I have. And so I called him back over, and that's what it ended up. We had 11 songs that we liked compared to having 8 songs before. So
Right. Well,
we
that's a
just
good problem.
so it's one of those things, and they're so dang good as a band. It's the same guys I use all the time. We went in and cut 11 songs in um, less than 6 hours.
Wow. Yeah. It's
Now that was the basic track. Now what I always do is I sing them live when we're cutting them. Just I like to have it be a live group in the studio like it was back in the 60s or whatever. There's just a magic of everybody playing together. But then I'll overdub harmonies and guitar parts maybe the next day. But it's pretty much they just nailed. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. They just nailed everything. Bam, bam, bam.
Man, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Kent, but I feel like this is a very biographical record. This is about you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's just kind of where I am now.
And that's what I
Uh,
love. I love the title, and I love the fact that the single or the title track rather is the last song of the record because it makes so much sense that you're building your life up until the present, essentially, right?
right.
Yeah.
You're pretty smart, you know that?
Thank you, man. I try to be observant.
But that was my target is just like there's some songs on there. My favorite one I think is On Any Given Day,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of staring age and down and going, okay, here I am now. And when a lot of people are giving up, a lot of people are saying you're too old, a lot of people are telling you what you ought to be doing, and it's like I'm going to keep doing every single day what I do because I love what I'm doing. And, who knows what other songs are waiting to be written. And I'm down here in Florida right now working on another record and have about half of them written. So um, I love what I do and do what I love.
Yeah,
So
I implore people to check the record out, especially if you're a fan of instrumentation. Man, I love the different instruments and the arrangements of these songs as well. Man, I was shocked to hear a sax, dude. It was so cool. Like,
so was I.
yeah, you don't hear much sax nowadays, Kent. You know that. So
Well,
that was dope. That was in the last single, "A Breeze," that I really loved with the sax open to it.
Yeah, when I was writing that song, I just keep thinking Van Morrison, like
Yeah,
a moon dance kind of thing. Or there was a one-hit wonder band, Townsend Sanford Band or something, Smoke of a Distant Fire. And I just remember how that started, and I thought, man, it'd be great if I could get a saxophone on there. So when we were cutting the tracks, I said to the band, does anybody know a saxophone player? And Lee, the band leader, said, well, our guitar player in our band plays sax, except his sax is always in the front of the all the equipment, so he never can get it out to play it. So I had to wait like 2 weeks till they got off the road and he could go dig his saxophone out, and he put a great part on it. And I was just excited to hear that, and it's making me think on these things I'm writing. What else could I put on there that's different, you know? And
Yeah.
so it was great to step out and have a saxophone on something.
Yeah, why not, man? I mean, why not? It's going to bring people in, I think, and it definitely did for me. Another thing, before we get into our fun segment and the story behind the second song that we're going to include as well, I want to implore people to get out there and get I don't know if it's a tribute to Garth. I guess it probably could be considered so, but as a fan of the songwriter, the record of where a songwriter's tribute to Garth, which is the original songwriters of some of his biggest hits performing those songs on the record. I really implore people to go pick that up on the internet. You can get it on Amazon and all the places that you buy stuff. So what an incredible idea from you, and my buddy Tony Arata is on that record, and just what a great idea. Yeah. Just some of the best songwriters ever.
We just, the funny thing about that is we did it just as a thank you to Bob Doyle. And so we just went in, we weren't planning on putting it out as a record or anything. It was just kind of like a Christmas present for Bob for putting us all together and having this amazing Garth Brooks career ride that we were on. And so somebody heard it at a record label and wanted to put it out. And it was actually Harold Shedd, who was Alabama's producer. He wanted to put it out on a record label he had. And all of a sudden it took off. And we were out touring behind it, and it was outselling some of the regular country records of the day. And then about the time we were supposed to get paid for our first sale, the record label went out of business.
Yeah.
So we never saw a dime on it, but I'm glad it's out there. I didn't know it was. And yeah, it's a great record.
It's on the secondary market, like Amazon, eBay, places like that. You can pick it up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely, I think people should check it out because it's such a cool idea. I wish more record labels would do that, have the songwriters of the songs perform the songs kind of as a tribute to the artist, because I think it's more of a tribute to the songwriter, to be fair. That's just my opinion. Speaking of songs and stories behind them, one of my favorite songs that you had a hand in is Gettin You Home, of course, which was co-written with Corey Batten and Chris Young, the artist that performed it. This song was kind of born of what I call title writing, right? You guys had the title and then you built the story around it. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. It was an interesting thing. Corey is a great singer-songwriter. And so we were working on getting him a record deal. And so Sony Records was interested in him. And we went down and played the project for the head A&R person. And at the time, she was watching the worst weather events in the last 50 years on the Weather Channel at the same time. So I kind of realized she wasn't into the project we were doing. And so Corey was all depressed, and we left the meeting, and another A&R person came up to me and she said, "Hey, I'm working with this kid, Chris Young. He's had out 3 singles. They haven't done anything. If he doesn't have a hit, he's gone. Would you write with him?" So I said, "Well, sure." And of course, Corey's standing right next to me. And I said, "Can I bring Corey?" And she said, "Yeah, do whatever." So we got with Chris, and he didn't know anything about us. We didn't know anything about him. And it was one of those days songwriters dread because nobody liked anybody else's ideas.
Yeah.
So we just kind of stared at each other for half an hour or so. And Corey, he and I had been writing a long time, and he got where he was like a little 6th grader. He needed to be fed lunch because every young singer-songwriter is starving. So I would fix him organic hot dogs, which I know is an oxymoron, and he would get the mustard and relish and everything out. And one day he had his head in the refrigerator, and I heard him sing, "All I can think about is getting you home." And I said, "Corey, what is that?" He said, "I don't know. I just made it up." I said, "Make it up in my phone." So here we were with Chris. We sat there for, 35, 40 minutes. And I said, "Well, let me find this one idea." And all it was Corey singing into my phone in the refrigerator. And so I played it, and Corey said, "Oh, I love that idea." And I said, "Yeah, it's your idea." He's the only child. And Chris said, "Well, we haven't come up with anything better to write, so let's write that." And so we started working on it, and we got to the chorus where it goes, "Walking through the front door," and nobody could think of what rhymed with door that was clean. And so I said, "Well, how about seeing her black dress hit the floor?" And I thought it was a good line, and they hated it. So I said, "Okay, you guys come up with something different." 30 minutes later, they didn't. So Chris said, "Well, we haven't come up with anything better. Let's put that line in there." And we finished the song. He did a guitar vocal at my house, took it down to the record label, and they called me up the next day and said, "Hey, we want to cut this on him. We love it, and we're going to cut it next week." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, okay." And sure enough, they did. And so they called me up and said, "Hey, we cut it. It turned out great. We want it to be the first single off the new record, but we want to change one thing." And I said, "Well, what do you want to change?" And they said, "Well, we want to change the title and not call it just Getting You Home. We want to call it Getting You Home, and in parentheses, the Black Dress song."
I was going to
So
say, parenthetically, it ended up the Black Dress song. Yeah.
And so I felt like the dirty old man got vindicated, you know. That,
Damn sure did, bro. Yeah.
And then when it was a hit, like you said, it became known as the Black Dress song, and Chris got a lot of black dresses thrown up on stage, so he kind of liked the song better after that.
I bet he did. Oh man, that's the different definition of success right there, folks.
You never know. I mean, that's the thing about Nashville. Guy's got his head in the refrigerator and it becomes a #1 song, or you're writing with a kid who's cleaning churches and selling boots and he ends up being Garth Brooks. I mean, you just never know.
That's why I do this show, man. The stories are so cool and they need to be out there, man. Like, they need to be out there. So Getting You Home, again, courtesy of Backstage Nashville. We're going to put out a version of this, also sung by the songwriter Kent Blazy. Y'all check it out.
Tuxedo waiter, black tie, white tablecloths, and red wine. We've been planning this night, looking forward to it for some time. Well, honey, I know you love getting dressed up, and you know I love showing you off, watching your baby blue eyes dancing in the candlelight glow. Now all you could think about is getting you home. Walking through the front door and seeing your black dress hit the floor. Well, honey, the sure ain't nothing like you loving me all night long. And all I can think about is getting you home. I'll think it's Steve. Don't need no menu, no I don't. Already know just what I want. Did I hear you right? Did you tell me? Well, go pay the waiter and let's leave. Well, honey, I know by that look in your eyes and your hand drawing hearts on mine. Our night out of the house ain't gonna last too long.
we're
you.
back. We're going to go by the numbers with Kent. This is always fun. We have a bunch of segments. You'll understand why we call it by the numbers as we go. The first segment is called Rapid Fire, Kent, and you have to answer these segments or questions as quickly as you can, hence Rapid Fire. There's 7 questions here. The first one is, what is your current song obsession?
It is Jesse Wells. Anything that he's doing. He's the new Bob Dylan to me.
I love Jesse Wells. All right, next one. What is something people may not know about Kent Blazy?
That I usually have 3 dogs at all times, and not necessarily trying to do that, but they just show up.
Oh, nice. Okay, what is not fun about the music business?
I don't know if we have enough time for that. Basically, you know, most of the time,
one thing that is not fun about the music business. How about
it's
that?
99% no, go away. 1%, hey, we like what you're doing. That's the tough part. It's
I had
mostly,
somebody tell me that every no means no, every maybe means no, and every yes means maybe.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. Next one. Can you name a room or place in history you wish you were a fly on the wall in or for?
I believe it probably would have been when they were writing the Declaration of Independence with, statesmen that we no longer have, but we won't get into that. But Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, these guys laid a foundation of stuff that's still true today. And that it would have been wonderful to hear them argue with each other like they did. I probably wouldn't have understood most of what they were talking about because
especially those two, they didn't get along when they were still working. So
no, they didn't get along until they died. I think they died on the same day.
Same day, yes, yep, that's true. July 4th, 1826. Yes, I'm a history buff. Next one. What is your personal best accomplishment, Kent?
Whew. I would have to say, it's one of those things. There's so many I have to be grateful for, but writing If Tomorrow Never Comes and having it become a worldwide hit and changing people's lives for the better. I mean, that was something I always prayed that I would be able to do as a songwriter. And that song to me is the one that did it.
Yeah.
And it was like an answer to a prayer.
What's something still on your bucket list?
My next record.
Very cool. And last one on Rapid Fire. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from music?
Just keep doing what you love and don't listen to anybody else. But the main thing is, no matter what you're doing, when you're doing it, find the fun in it. And that'll keep you going when everything else seems like it's trying to talk you out of doing it.
Love it. We're going to continue on by the numbers with 6 what the heck questions. These are some silly questions, hopefully, that you'll enjoy. Number 1, what world record do you think you have a shot at breaking?
None.
He's not good at nothing, y'all. All right, number 2, how long do you wait after finishing your food before going back for seconds?
Lately, I've been trying to not go back for seconds.
All right, number 3, what are you most afraid of?
I think it's rattlesnakes.
Yeah. Oh, you'd be all right in Tennessee there. I imagine they probably have timbers there. Yeah, they do have them, don't they? Number 4, how violently do you have to fight the urge to scream when you hear an ice cream truck?
Sadly, I don't see ice cream trucks anymore because I would be screaming at them. Stop.
Yeah, so if you saw one, it would probably be pretty violent, huh? Like, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I might have to chase them down,
All right, number 5, do you think that SpongeBob feels every single hole in his body?
I don't think so.
Just certain ones, maybe?
Yeah, maybe certain ones.
All right, number 6.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, me too. Number 6, what was your most awkward moment on stage?
Wow. I think my most awkward moment was I got to play electric guitar on the Ryman stage, which I never dreamed of, as a tribute to Garth Brooks. And so I was doing Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up with a band, and we'd just all gotten back from Ireland. I think I'd had like three hours sleep or something. And I went up to sing the second verse, and the microphone hit me in the eye.
You definitely felt that hole, didn't you?
Yeah, I probably fell asleep for a split second and didn't realize where I was, or the adrenaline was pumping so strong. I don't know, but
I love how ironic it is that you're doing "Ain't Going Down" and you get hit in the face by a microphone, and you didn't go down, I'm assuming, right?
That's right. But of course, Garth was on the first row, and he didn't say, "Man, you did a good job" or whatever. He went, "Hey, I saw that microphone hit you in the head." I'm like,
Yes, he
"Thanks,
did.
buddy."
All right, next one on By the Numbers is top 5. What are your favorite top 5 songs that you have written?
Well, I'd have to say, "If Tomorrow Never Comes," of course, "Ain't Going Down," "Somewhere Other Than the Night," "On Any Given Day," and then I've got a cool one about Stephen Foster that I really like a lot that people start asking for, and so he was. It's got that line in there about John Adams and Thomas Jefferson the day they died, and I think
What's
he
the
was
name of that
born.
one?
My Old Kentucky Home Revisited, and I think Stephen Foster was born on that day that they died.
Oh, wow, okay. All right, By the Numbers, the next one is Mount Rushmore. Who are the 4 best songwriters, in your opinion?
Whew. Christopherson, Bob McDill. Man, let me think else. You know who I have to say is a great songwriter, and this is not kissing his butt, is Garth Brooks. He's probably one of the best songwriters that I've ever heard, and he blows me away every time we get together. And then the other guy that I really love is Jason Isbell.
I love that. And you mentioned earlier that how surprising it was that Billy Dean didn't become the big star that Garth Brooks became. I think it was the songwriting that set those two apart. And Billy Dean was a great songwriter, but he was no Garth.
Right. And Garth, he had an interesting thing. He surrounded himself with about 8 different people that he went to most of the time, and they all did different things.
Yeah.
So because of that, he had such a varied bunch of songs.
And I think another thing that Garth doesn't get enough credit for, not to cut you off, Kent, but I've heard so many stories about Garth and how he cultivated relationships with the people that he wrote with. People like you and Tony and Pat and Victoria and all of these people that he wrote with. He really made a point of knowing who you guys were, formulating friendships with y'all. I mean, that kind of set him apart too, didn't it?
It really did. And the cool thing about that is, we're all still friends. We still all get together every once in a while. And he's still the Garth that he was back then,
Yeah.
even though he's the Garth of the world,
Exactly.
And it's just really cool that we all still have that thing. And we all became really good friends thanks to him putting all these things together. And just the fact that in this day and age, you can have a #1 song with somebody and you never hear from them again.
That's exactly the way it is.
That's the thing about Garth Brooks. He's the real deal, and I have great friends thanks to him that I would have never known.
All right, continuing on By the Numbers, can you name 3 people, Kent, that impacted your life in some way? This doesn't have to do anything with music if you don't want it to. 3 people that impacted your life, and then tell us the biggest thing you learned from each of those people.
I think John Kennedy, when I was a young boy, was really the first person that impacted my life. And that speech of "ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," I mean, that needs to be played these days to me. And it was just such a shock when he was assassinated for the whole country. But for a little kid, he changed my world and made me see a way bigger picture than just being a little kid in the middle of nowhere. The other person that really changed my life was Roger McGuinn and his 12-string, because that sound is what really got me playing guitar, and I'm still chasing that. And Roger's still out there. He looks great. He sings great. He sounds even better than he did sometimes. And so I think I've got him to thank for that. And then the other person I think really that kept me going was Ian Tyson, by really encouraging me. And when you've got somebody who's a great songwriter, who they say, is Canada's Bob Dylan, and he's saying, "You're writing really good songs. I want you to open for me and play your songs." That was world changing for me.
Yeah. As we continue on By the Numbers, the next one is called Gratitude. Can you name the 2 things that you are most grateful for?
I'm grateful for my life every day. It's been an amazing life, and I'm grateful for my new wife. My late wife passed away in 2009, and I married her best friend, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
I would like to point out too, since you did mention that, about a philanthropic interest that you have for a live hospice, which
Right.
is in honor of your wife who passed from cancer. I want people. I'm going to put a link in the description of the show down below, directly to
Thank
them,
you.
so folks can support that as well in honor of you and your wife. I hope some folks will do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, man. Last one by the numbers is for the number one. Who is one artist that Kent Blazy wishes the whole world knew about, other than yourself?
Well, I'm going to be modern on this and say it's Jesse Wells. And, to me, he's the new Bob Dylan. And I love that this kid from Arkansas started out with the little videos he was doing on his phone out in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas and posting them. And now he's got a major record deal. He's out touring. He did it the old fashioned way in a new fashioned way.
God, I
And
love how you put that because it's so true. He did what would be termed as what we were talking about earlier as being full of networking, beating the bushes, showing up at places and stuff. But he did it in a way with social media and making sure that he was current with content, and he's beating the bushes, but in that different way. And man, he has really shown a new trajectory for folks to get in behind him and follow the same path into the way that he got to a record deal and how he got to fame and all of those things. He's pretty transcendental as an artist today, I think.
I agree with that. And just he's a great songwriter.
Yeah.
He can be funny, he can be relevant, he can be politically incorrect. Some people think, but he's telling the truth the way he sees it. And I wish we had more of that these
And he's
days. We have a
current
lot
too,
of
right? So he'll
yeah,
hear
yes,
see something and
he's
write about
current.
it that day, and he's performing it that day. Like, it's crazy.
Well, and that's the cool thing about what we have these days. It reminds me of when Crosby, Stills and Nash went in and cut Ohio and put it out the next day. Now
Yeah,
you can just sing something on your phone and it can go ballistic in one day, and he's really good at that.
yeah. And that's what I mean by, like, get onto his coattails, y'all. He is doing it the right way for the way that we consume music today. And I'm
Right.
just so happy that somebody gave him a record deal recognizing that talent, and just how crazy good at social media he is. Last segment of the podcast, and Kent, thank you so much for doing this. The segment is called "Who Do You Think You Are?" So, who is
Uh-oh.
Kent Blazy?
Oh, I'm let's see, a lover of life, a lover of electric guitars, songwriting, uh, meditation, and just enjoying life every day as it comes, filled with the gratitude of the life I've been given.
And man, you mentioned earlier something that I haven't discussed, and we're going to talk about it right here, and that is new music on the horizon. You are always releasing songs. You are such a prolific songwriter. Tell us about the new record that's due to come out, and does it have an ETA?
No, not yet. I'm about halfway through it, and it's so far it's kind of been a really fun record that I'm writing. But then there's some other dark songs that I never presented before on the other album that I'm kind of thinking, do I need to put them all on the same album, or do I need to make two different albums, one a dark one and a light one, or whatever? So
Hmm.
I'm kind of going back and forth on what needs to be on this record, because I don't know. I think people need to be uplifted right now, and some of the
Maybe it's
songs
an
that,
anthology, man. Maybe you put them out together.
well, that's a good idea. See, that's why I talk to you.
Call it the light and dark of Kent Blazy. There you go. Give
Ooh,
five
I,
percent, Kent. 5%. I
there
got
you
your
go. I
back.
like that.
All right, man. If you guys are just hearing about Kent Blazy, first of all, what the hell are you doing with your life? But if you are, it's KentBlazy.com. I want you guys to go over there. He's got a tour listing, all of his shows. He's playing some of the iconic venues in Nashville all the time. So if you're in town, go check him out. Make sure you check out his store. He's got handwritten lyrics there for some of his biggest songs. You can get all of his records there as well, including some stuff with Garth as well on there. And so make sure you're supporting the guy. The social media is Facebook is at Kent Blazy Music. The Instagram is at Kent Blazy, and the YouTube is at Kent Blazy as well. So follow on your favorite platform. Kent, I appreciate your time today, man. Thanks for doing this.
Man, I appreciate you too. Thanks so much. That was incredible.
Hi, I'm Jess Woodland, and thank you for tuning in to the Boston Chris Show.